Blastpop here. This is a copy of an old SPI game that I got back in 1976 when I was a subscriber to Strategy and Tactics magazine. The game is called Revolt in the East, and the game is about the Soviet Union invading various countries of the Warsaw Pact when that used to be a thing. Now, this is obviously a hypothetical alternate history situation, but no less so actually than some of the Warsaw Pact war games that come out to this day, positing a Soviet invasion of the West with the Warsaw Pact allies. In this case, which is probably somewhat closer, at least in fact, to what actually happened in 1990, various countries within the pact rebel. Now, this game actually I haven't played probably in nearly 40 years. Now, as I'm slowly turning the map here so you can all see it, there is a Revolt Track. And looking at it, you can see that you roll a die, and at the start of every turn, based on the number of cities in revolt, you get to see what countries may revolt. So at the start of the game, you'll roll a six-sided die, and you could have anything from East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria rebelling. And as in subsequent turns, if there's more cities in rebellion, there's a greater chance of more than one country going into rebellion. Once East Germany rebels, subsequent turns there's a possibility that you can get a NATO result, which would mean NATO can then join the forces to liberate the country, help liberate the countries that are being invaded by the Soviet Union, in essence, because the Soviets are going to do everything they can to put down a rebellion as soon as possible to prevent its further spread. Now, assuming you do get a NATO entrance into the war, the forces here in West Germany can go into East Germany, and only East Germany, until they push the Russians out. And then they can go into further countries, and possibly, and I'm not sure why you would do this, but you could, for instance, invade Albania. And right there. Or Yugoslavia. And in addition to that, you have, I think there's a Warsaw Pact fantasy scenario. There's a Hungarian rebellion, and then from like 1955, and then a Yugoslav civil war. Hence, you can see that Yugoslav forces have two different colors, I think, to represent those forces, though I haven't examined that scenario yet. So the Soviets are going to find a country that rebels, and then try to put it down as quickly as can for turn two. And this is a fairly simple, you move, attack, and the other side goes. All in all, it's a fairly simple game, but I think it's got some legs, at least as far as a solitaire game is concerned, if not a two-player game, because how the countries rebel is going to differ from game to game. So that's going to have a major impact on how the game is going to develop, and add a certain amount of suspense, I suspect, as well. So this goes on for 12 turns, going back and forth across the map. And without getting too much into the details of the actual mechanics, if you've played any war games in the past, you can easily pick this game up in terms of its learning curve. So this is set up in preparation for me giving it a go. Now, if this turns out interesting, I may do another video on this. If not, not so much. And here you can see the combat results table. A typical attacker, retreat, defender, retreat, exchange, defender eliminated. So it's all fairly standard. Zones of control force you to stop, and you must stay there until you're either eliminated or one of the two other forces retreat through combat. There's also a limited number of air forces that they act as a shift of an odds column in essence. There's also the ability to engage in fighter-to-fighter combat. But overall, the emphasis is strictly on the ground combat. Additionally, the Soviets have 3 airborne units that enter in this scenario as reinforcements. There's your reinforcements up the top, up there. Among them, and there are 2 strength units, and as if I haven't mentioned that before, the 6 or the 7, or any of the numbers actually on the counters is the combat value, so that's a value of 5. All units have a movement allowance of 8. Airborne units can move across the map, land, and you can use them to help surround enemy units to attempt to quell a rebellion as quickly as possible. So anyway, this is an old SPI game designed by James Dunnigan from 1976. It's a traditional game. You probably can play 2 or 3 games in an evening and see how that goes. So, you know, again, the complexity isn't there, but it certainly should be an interesting, fun romp, I guess, for the lack of a better term, when you don't want something quite so complex as the latest Next War Series game by GMT. Anyway, I'm going to give this a go, and if this proves interesting enough, I may do an actual gameplay video of some sort down the road. Anyway, enjoy. Good gaming. Bye.